Let me share my screen. I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to turn my camera off. All right, so what I wanted to go over, welcome to our session on learning tools in Microsoft 365. I like to call learning tools your superpower. On the screen, you do have a QR code, and that will take you to a Wakelet. And that Wakelet has all the resources that I'm going over in this session. So you can have links to everything that you're seeing in this session, as well as a link to a Wakelet. And the Wakelet is going to have a ton of additional resources and courses that we provide in Microsoft Learn that you can share with folks in your own school district or with whomever you think would benefit from those courses about how to create inclusive and engaging content for all students of all abilities, or even parents. I like to say that the learning tools in Microsoft 365 shouldn't be just condensed to within the school. We have a lot of tools that are available that can help even parents out in the community. So I don't know about y'all, but I love to turn my captioning on my TV. And so I find that captioning is a great thing. And what I'm going to do is show you that right now. So built into PowerPoint and also built into Teams is the ability for you to show your PowerPoint and always have captions. And I love to turn on captions here. So we're going to look at a couple of ways that you can first create the content. When you're creating it, how do you create content that is accessible to your students and then or your community or parents? I should just say stakeholders, and those include students. But accessibility is required by many people, and some of that accessibility never goes away. So we think, well, I think anyway, like I'm thinking K through 12, right? But then I also have to consider the fact, like my husband, he has ADD, and he could also benefit from these tools as a parent. So there are several different types of disabilities also, or learning challenges, things like permanent disabilities, deaf or hard of hearing, visual difficulties, cognitive difficulties, speech, mobility, neural. We also have temporary impairments. One of the greatest things I like to talk about is if you teach any student athletes, eventually they're going to get hurt. Some of them will get hurt and some of them will require surgery. I had a student who broke his shoulder in football and required surgery, and he broke the shoulder on the hand that he wrote with. And so we had to give him some temporary accommodations to meet his needs. And Microsoft Tools, we were able to do that. This is just an overview of the types of tools that we have, which are over here. And these are things that are built in. So none of this is going to require additional cost, and none of it is going to require an additional app that you buy. So we have all of these accessibility features, and they exist in all of these different areas of our apps. This link that I'm showing you here is going to be available to you in the resources link that I'm going to share, that I shared. Let's talk about creating accessible content. So when you're creating that content for parents, students, faculty members even, let's not forget that some faculty members also would love to have this accessibility for them. Inside of the Microsoft apps, Word, PowerPoint, you have what's called accessibility checker. And I'm gonna just be completely transparent here. I was doing a presentation on accessibility checker, and I was like, hey, let's just check out this accessibility PowerPoint and see how accessible it is. Well, it wasn't, so I stopped that. So I'm not going to do that here. I do have a Word document though that we're going to look at to check accessibility checker. What this allows you to do is you can actually turn accessibility checker on while you're creating the content. And as you're adding things, it will be checking that it can be running in the background. And there's a little, I'll show you in just a minute, there's a small little menu on the bottom, and it'll show you if you're good to go, or if you need to stop what you're doing and add some information. So I'm going to go through each of these slides and then open a Word document and show you some of those things that we're talking about, where those exist. So this is just an overview of how Accessibility Checker works, and then also where you can start. So if you don't even know where to begin and you're like, I just want, is there a template I can use? Yes, there is a template you can use. And the accessibility templates are right here inside of Office 365 apps. And I'm going to show, we're going to go start to finish in a Word document on how to start with an app, how to use Designer in Word, and then how to run Accessibility Checker at the end. Here's more information on Accessibility Checker. I will tell you that my preference is to run Accessibility Checker in Word for the desktop. I feel like that's a much better, more robust experience, is using Word on the desktop for checking accessibility. So when you are using this feature, my preference and my best practice would be make sure you're opening it in the desktop app. We're going to look at some ways that you can create accessible content by creating alternative text. If we have students who are low vision, it's great if they have a screen reader for when you're adding images to any of your documents or your PowerPoints, that you let the screen reader know if these things are decorative or if they're important to the content. Just put a real nice 1 to 2 sentence detail about what the image holds, and the screen reader can pick that up. But you do notice you have the option here to mark it as decorative if you're just doing like a welcome screen and maybe you don't need the screen reader to pick it up. We're going to look at how to do that and how Word actually generates a detail for you. So they'll generate that description for you. You can have that auto-generated. The other thing is you have PowerPoint Designer. Designer is also in Word Online. So you can build your Word document using Word Online and have Designer built into it. And then you can open it and edit in the desktop app and run the accessibility checker if you want to do that. So I always tell people, they're like, should I use one over the other? And I said, yeah, sometimes. But sometimes you want to use both because together they make it an even more robust experience. So all the apps that you see that we're going to be going over do have the web version, and they also have the desktop version. So right now I'm in the desktop version of PowerPoint, and you can see that whenever I share my screen and then start the slideshow, we have those subtitles at the top. I can also use those to create a duolingual experience. So I can make those subtitles show in a different language, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. The other thing that you need to be concerned with when you're creating content is the color and pattern contrast. This is also going to be picked up by the accessibility checker. It's going to tell you if your font is too light, if your background in your font will cause confusion for either someone who is low vision or for a screen reader. So I'm going to stop here because we are going to look at language barriers in just a minute, but I do want to take you from start to finish in a Word document on how you can create accessible content. I'm going to open up in Word, and I'm going to actually, I'll have my chat feature open. So if anyone does need to chat, or if you just want to ask a question, if you just want to do it aloud, that'll be fine too. I do not mind being interrupted, and you're really not interrupting me because if I'm just sitting there chatting, I will want you to ask me questions. All right, so we're going to come here and we're at Word. We're going to go to Word Online. So I just came to my web browser, and then what I'll do is just type in office.com. I'm going to sign out of here because if you don't have a Microsoft 365 account, there is a free account for educators. So even if your school district may not be a Microsoft 365 district and you want to be able to use some of these features, you can create a Microsoft account and use it in your classroom. So Microsoft does provide a free educator and student account. So if you come here and you don't have a Microsoft 365 account, when you click sign in, you can create an account. But if you do have a Microsoft 365 account, and I'll go back and show that again, what you'll do is you'll click sign in, you'll use your Office 365 work or school account, and then you'll log in to Office online. And I'm going to sign in and take us here. And then we're gonna come here to Word on this left-hand menu. We're just gonna open Word here. Now from Word, what you can do is you'll see these options, new blank document, all of these. We're gonna click on more templates. So when we select more templates, we can come here and start looking at any of these templates that exist right here. And the templates that exist in here are going to be those accessible templates. Another way you can get to the templates, if you are using Word on the desktop and you create new, you'll have that same experience. You'll see those templates that exist here. If you want to find specifically accessible templates, just type in accessible right here. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull in all of those templates that are set by color contrast, font, and any of the images that are there should have that alt text or be marked as decorative. So when you open it and you run the accessibility checker, you shouldn't find any issues there. So you can do this from the online version or from the desktop version. So we're just going to open up, we're going to come here to more templates, and we're just going to open up this resume right here. All right, so here's our resume. And what we can do in this Word online, we can open up, we're going to have Editor just opens up automatically. I'm not sure if you've ever seen Editor before, but it opens up automatically and it will start running Editor for you. This is another great feature for you for building that accessible content. You can come in here and decide what kind of writing you're doing. So if you're doing more professional or casual or formal writing, you can choose that, and Editor will help you choose the right words to add to your document. The other cool thing is I haven't seen this too much before, but someone showed this to me, and you can click on this little paintbrush with the sparkles on it, and you're going to open up Designer. And Designer is going to open up all of this really great information on the side. And you can just choose. Designer's also going to have that accessibility built in. So you can choose any of these designer designs that you want. And it will give you, it's going to pull in the resume, but it's going to put in this header. It's going to change the font for you and the colors and all of that. So if you want to, this is how you can start working on it. Want to finish your document and you want to run accessibility checker, it does exist in Word online, and I'll show you that. You can always come into the review tab here. When you click that, you'll see check accessibility. So we're going to check accessibility. It's going to run through and we're going to check right here. Here's a warning. And the warning here is reading order. So that's, we can click on what it is. And so this reading order right here could be confusing for a screen reader. But what you don't really see in the online version, I'm going to see if I can move this over here. When you click on additional information down here, it gives you some information on how to change or rearrange or whatever you need to do to make your content more accessible. What I want to show you is the same document in the desktop version. And we're going to be looking at the accessibility checker here. So I created this online. I can do that here. Then I can come and edit the document in the desktop by just clicking on editing and choosing open in the desktop app. From here, when I go to review and I run accessibility checker here, I can just click on it, check accessibility. Now what I'm going to see is that same warning is going to show up right here. I'm going to click this down arrow and I'm going to click on table. Now what I like about the desktop version is you see now I have this recommended action, and that's to create a table. That's super helpful. So let's go ahead and just create a plain table. And what it's going to do is it's going to put that in a table for me. And now the screen reader will know to read all of the things in here first, and then read everything in here next. And I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to guess on how to fix it. I just ran accessibility checker, and now you see it has another warning. I can click on this, go to table cell, and then we can either merge cells, which we don't want to do. So I'm going to actually ignore this one because it just divided it into a table for the screen reader. But it also gives me this information here. I'm going to see if I can increase my view, but it tells you why you should fix it, and then the steps to fixing it right here. So it gives you all the information that you need, and you can come in and you can fix your document. I'm actually going to move this down here because I want it to look better. And now I have everything that I need in my document ready to go. And you'll see that it didn't take me very long to do this. And all I had to do was open up a template, start from a template, open up Designer, run accessibility checker, use the tips that they gave me in accessibility checker, and create that more accessible document. I'm going to close this. Same thing if I added an image. Let's say I want to come in here and I'm going to add an image. So let me click this down. And I'm actually going to, sorry, I'm going to come here. I'm in a hotel lobby. So I'm hoping that y'all can't hear all the noise that's going on. But I'm going to click on my device settings and make sure my noise suppression is high. Okay. So if I come in here and I wanted to add an image, so let me come right here and I'm going to do insert. And I'm going to come and do a picture, and I'm going to do an online picture. If I use pictures from an online source or from my device, the alt text is not automatically added. If I add a stock image right here, so let's start with the stock image. If I add an image here, and let's say I'm going to, let me just do binder right here. I'm going to look for a binder. Actually, let me look for a computer. That'll be better. Right here. So I'm going to look for a computer, and I'm just going to put this image in here and do insert right there. What I want you to do is there's accessibility down here, and it still has investigate because we're not changing our table. But what I wanted to do now is I want to review again, and I want to check accessibility. And it's still just that table right here because this, if I right click on this picture and go to edit alt text here, what I'm going to see is it already included the alternative text for the picture, so I don't have to add any there. That's because I use the stock images from within Word. So if you use stock images in Word and PowerPoint, you don't have to worry about creating alt text. It's automatically created. If you add from your device or if you add it from online, so we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to insert an online photo. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look for a computer image. And I'm going to click that and insert. Now what's going to happen is I should get another, here we go. Here's my other error. I have a missing alternative text. So when I click on it, I can click that, look at the recommended actions. I can mark it as decorative and the screen reader won't pick it up. Or I can add a description here and I can just put on here, desktop computer with colorful monitor and with colorful monitor, keyboard and mouse on the desk. And that's it. So now it's going to read that. It's going to know what I said. I don't have to add a lot. It gives me the information that I need. What do I need to put in here? And then I'm ready to go. So if you add images in Word and PowerPoint from stock images, alternative text is included. If you add it from the web or from your desktop, it's going to pick it up and ask you to create some alternative text, but it's also going to give you information on how to do that. I'm going to cancel this and not save this document. What we're going to look at next is once you've created your content. So you've used the templates, you've used the accessibility checker, you've used Designer, you have all of these tools. Now you're ready to share your information with your stakeholders, students, parents, staff, faculty, whomever you want to share your content with. If you are sharing a PowerPoint as part of your presentation, you have two ways that you can share a captioning experience with your people. So you can come into PowerPoint here, and just like we looked at before, when I go to slideshow right here, I can always use subtitles. So if I click always use subtitles here, every time I hit a slideshow, I'm going to have the subtitles start. It's going to pick up what I'm saying and it's going to show you at the top. This allows me to have a duolingual experience with people. So I can come into the subtitle settings, and what I can do is I can choose where they need to be. I prefer above the slide. If you do top overlaid, if you have any information up here, the subtitles will obscure whatever you have at the top. I like to do above the slide, especially if I'm doing big presentations, if on a big screen, because sometimes people can't see it, people in the back can't see it on the bottom. So once you set this to above slide, every time you use subtitles, that's where you don't have to keep setting it every time. What you're doing is you're not creating the always use subtitles for just this presentation. You're setting that setting in PowerPoint in general. So you just have to set it once. The other thing you can do is in your subtitle settings, you can choose your spoken language, which is English. Then you can also have a subtitle language. So if I wanted to come here and have my subtitle language be something like French, I can click on French here. Now, when I start my subtitles, I'm going to be giving the presentation in English, but the subtitles are going to be coming through in French. So we should be able to see it. It's listening right now, but it should pop it up and start translating into French for me. That way I can have, so the presenter is controlling the captioning experience for the audience. Let's say you're giving a presentation, but you're presenting to a group of people who all speak different languages. PowerPoint also has an option for that. So rather than subtitles where you're going from English into a different language, you want to have a multilingual experience. What you can do, and this only exists, so the subtitles will start whether you do your slideshow from PowerPoint on the web or PowerPoint on the desktop. It doesn't matter what version you're using. But if you need to create a multi manage their own experience, I'm going to come here into PowerPoint for the web. And this feature is only available in PowerPoint for the web. So I'm going to open this PowerPoint that we're in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open my PowerPoint in PowerPoint for the web. I'm going to go into slideshow here. And one of the options I have that shows up here, here's my always use subtitles, but then I have this present live. It's going to show up in just a minute as soon as that little round thing is finished. So when I come to present live, I'm going to select once it's available to me. Maybe I should close this right here. And once I get in here, I should be able to present live. And if I'm giving a presentation to people who aren't in my organization, I'm presenting to a lot of people outside of my organization, I'm going to want to come in to present live, and I'm not sure why. Oh, there we go. And I'm going to want to choose anyone can join my presentation. So I'm going to select anyone. So it's the slideshow menu, present live, select the down arrow, choose the settings, the permissions that you want. I'm going to choose anyone. And after I select that, I'm going to choose present live here. And it's going to open up this window. I'm not doing anything right now. All I did was select present live. What's going to happen is it's going to give me a link. So anyone who's on their laptop and can't read a QR code, here's the link where they can join the presentation. If you have a mobile device, you can always open up take your mobile device, take a picture of this QR code, and you'll open the slideshow on your phone. What you'll have is you'll have the slide at the top, and then you'll have captions at the bottom. So I'm going to come here and go to show slides. I do have my captions showing right here. So if I need people to see captions, that's right there. But I'm going to move forward into my PowerPoint Live section so you can see what people will see. And we move through. Let me click here. I'm going to come here, and there we go. So this is what your audience should see on their phone. They'll always have the option to click this, to select this link. So the join link is always right here in the show. Once they have the things open, they'll see the slide here. The captions are down here. Where it says French, it may say English on some people's. If you've joined this, it'll say English. You can select the language here, and you can change. I think it's up to 70 languages now that are available. Your attendees will not receive a copy of your slides in PowerPoint Live. They'll only have access to the slides for as long as you have the PowerPoint Live session open. So you don't have to worry about people taking the information with them. As soon as you end the session, the PowerPoints go away, as does the captioning. So this is really made for when you're doing presentations in PowerPoint, whether it's a webinar like this or if it's a live presentation, you can allow anyone in the room to join your presentation and see those captions, especially if they need them in a different language. So this is how you can knock down some of those language barriers, especially if folks are hard of hearing or deaf and they need to see that caption, but they'll have it on their device, or you can do the subtitles. So this is a way that you can bring that multilingual experience and create that accessible experience for your audience. You can also use this as a way to kind of check the room and just say, hey, I've been going over some information that's super important. If you want to just give me a thumbs up if we're there, give me a kind of meh face if you need me to repeat anything, and then you can get some feedback right away on how folks are doing with your presentation. The other way, let's say you're not giving a PowerPoint, so you don't want to start a PowerPoint Live session. What you want to do is you want to have a multilingual experience. without a PowerPoint. That's where Microsoft Translator comes in to play. You can actually create a screen worth of captions for your audience members. So you can be projecting onto the screen. You can start a translator conversation and just put all the captions on the screen where people can follow, or folks can join your conversation that you share with them on their own mobile device. So if you need to have, I really love this idea for parent-teacher conferences, or parents who need to go talk to counselors and their maybe English isn't their first language. So you want to make sure that that everyone in the room is understanding what's being said. Microsoft Translator is great for that. And I'm going to just play this quick video right here.
This is a new multi-device translation feature on the Microsoft Translator application.
Si tratta di una nuova funzionalità di traduzione multi-device sull'applicazione Microsoft Translator.
Here I'm going to go into this. I'm going to make it a little bigger.
So if you're a college student like me, especially, you need Grammarly in your life. Grammarly is a digital writing assistant.
There we go.
Wir können eine echte Konversation halten über die Sprachbarriere hinweg.
Possiamo mantenere una vera conversazione attraverso la barriera linguistica.
Et il est possible de parler jusqu'à 10 langues différentes.
Ed è possibile parlare fino a 10 lingue diverse.
100 people can participate in the same conversation at the same time.
100 persone possono partecipare alla stessa conversazione allo stesso tempo.
So what can happen with Microsoft Translator, and I'm going to come in here and do the translator.microsoft.com. So what you do in Translator is folks can either join a conversation using a 5-letter code, or you can come in and start a conversation. First, you'll have to begin the conversation. So you'll start the conversation, log in using a Microsoft or Google account. So it doesn't matter if you haven't created your free educator account, or if your school doesn't have an educator account and you have a Google account, you can start a conversation with a Google account. I'm going to start the conversation here. And what's going to happen is this is presenter mode. So I can decide who can talk and who can't talk. I'm going to start it by my mic stays on. I'm going to mute others for now. I can always come back and change that. So if you want to have a multilingual presentation where you're delivering content in the beginning, you can set this setting, and then during the session, when you're ready for questions and answers, whoever's in your session can use their phone. Once you turn mics on, they can click their mic and talk in whatever their native language is, but it'll come through to you in your native language. The other thing that you can do is, if people want to hear it, so if there's a need, if maybe there's a low vision person who's in the audience and they really need to just hear what's being said, under settings right here, there's a play speech output option. And so what's going to happen is they can put their headphones in there, they can put their headphones on, and you can show them to come to the settings and play the speech output right here. And it will read whatever's on the screen, but it will read it in whatever language they chose. So that's another super great feature for translation. When you're ready, you can come and just toggle off muting others, and you can let them start having conversations. And you'll see it's just picking up everything that I'm saying, and I don't have a PowerPoint that I need to be showing. I don't have to do any of that. I just started this conversation and shared it. In fact, I'm going to come here and stop my PowerPoint presentation so you can see that translator is just picking it up, and it's picking it up whether I'm on the screen or not. It's just going to continue picking up everything that I'm saying. Once we're finished with our conversation, so this can work for one-to-one or one-to-many. It doesn't matter. It just matters how many people joined your conversation. And they'll join by going into Translator, either the app on their phone or on a web browser. And they can scan this QR code, or they can use this join code to join the conversation. The best feature, well, the feature that I like the most is once you're finished having your conversation, especially if this is going to be a one-to-one, a parent-teacher conversation, or a parent-counselor, parent office, whatever conversation's happening. Once you're finished, you can click on Leave Conversation, and then you can download the transcript. So it's going to download everything that was said, and it's also going to give speaker attribution. So you'll know who said what during the meeting, and you'll have a copy of it. When you click download transcript, it goes into your download folder, and then you can rename it and you can share it out however you typically share out conversations. If you want to email it to the parents and just say, just want to make sure this is what happened, then you can do that. It's a super great feature. Download the transcript, or you can just leave the conversation if it's over. And so this is where, once you have that code, they'll come in and they don't have to log in. You notice I don't have to log in to join a conversation. So they don't have to have a Microsoft 365 account or a Google account. They can just enter the 5-letter code that you gave them, type in their name, and then choose whatever language they want the captions to come in. So this is a great way to provide that multilingual experience where you're not PowerPoint dependent. You can even put Translator app on your phone. And I'm actually going to come here to this conversation tab and show you a couple of things. Let me keep going. So it shows you everything that you need to do to get started with it. And then here is a person who's giving the presentation using their phone. And then what other people, they have their own phones. Remember, they can have their headphones in and play the text to speech. So if you're giving, and you see it's on all of these different types of experiences. So if you're out of town or you're out of the country and you're somewhere, you have Translator app on your phone. And that's why I'm saying it's really important to share these tools with folks in your community, because it can be accessible anywhere. If you have a student group going on a trip to a different country, show them how to use Translator app. So if they get lost and they need to go somewhere, they can open their Translator app, speak into their phone in their own language. The other person can hear what they're saying in their own language. And there are just so many opportunities for how Translator app can help. Another thing that Translator app does is, if you have the app on your phone and you're in a different country, or even if your parents are here and they're not strong English speakers, what they can do is open Translator app, look at they can look at a sign. Let me see if I can find a link here. Text right here, and not that one. Let me go to the app. So what they can do is they can use their phone and they can hover over an image, a menu, a street sign, whatever, and it'll translate that into their own language. So there's a lot of different uses for Translator. So if you want to, you can put the app on your phone and you can have that two-way conversation. So you can have like a walkie-talkie conversation. Here's that camera where you can take a picture of this, or you can just hover over it and it'll translate whatever this says right here. You can even try it if you have Translator app on your phone. You can just come here and try that and see. The other thing that is included is a phrase book, which is really nice, and it's always offline. You don't have to have internet to use it, and over 200 phrases are there. All right, so that is Translator app. We're going to come back in here. Do we have any questions about any of this? I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff out at you, but everything that I'm going over is going to be available to you in the links that I'm about to share. All right, so this is when you are, so we just went over how to create the content that's accessible, and then we went over how to present the content that you've created in a way that's accessible. And I'm going to come here and put my subtitles back above the slide. If you'll notice, because I'm using the PowerPoint web version, my settings were set to having the captions below the subtitles below the slide. So I just came and changed it here. Now we're going to talk about how can your students, faculty, parents access the content in an accessible way. So sometimes students, there's a saying that students would rather go without than stand out. So students would rather you not know that they need your help than raise their hand and ask for it. And that's not all students. I had a student who advocated very well for themselves in the classroom, but you do have other students who may not do that. They may not know or may not want to advocate for themselves. So this that I'm about to show you are ways that your students or the people who are accessing your content can create an accessible environment for themselves. So it's not PowerPoint Live, it's not this big presentation, it's when you're delivering content, however you're delivering it, it's a Word document and you're sharing that out with students, or you're sharing out a newsletter with parents. How can they make that content accessible on their own? Within Microsoft 365, there are a couple of things that are available. The first one we're going to look at is accessibility tools. Immersive Reader, we're also going to look at Dictate, and we're going to look at math tools. For feedback, for really good feedback, you can use OneNote in your classroom or with your faculty, because within OneNote, you can create video and audio feedback if that's a need. Also within Word, you have Editor and Researcher. We looked a little bit at Editor, but Editor and Researcher are both in Word and OneNote. So Immersive Reader, this is the way that people can interact with the text in a way that makes sense to them. It's going to be in the View menu of the Microsoft 365 apps, or in third-party apps and things like Minecraft and Microsoft Edge. All you're going to look for is this book with a speaker on it. So you'll see that, and you'll be able to click on that picture and you'll have the Immersive Reader experience. So it's in the View menu of the Microsoft 365 apps, or it's in other third-party apps, and it's that open book with a speaker. The first thing that when you open Immersive Reader, the first thing that your students or your stakeholders can do is they can change the text size right here. They can also change the background color. So Irlen syndrome, if they have Irlen syndrome and need a specific text color or back color, they can find that here. They can also come in and show parts of speech and syllables if that's a need. There's also a read aloud feature. So if they just click this play button, it will read whatever is on the page to them. And then finally, they can do things like translate the entire document. They can select line focus. There's a picture dictionary, so folks can click on a word and they can see a picture, an image of it. And then I didn't take the picture of that here, but there's also a translate in over 70 languages. You can translate just sections of it, or you can translate the entire document. So the reader can control that experience. The next accessibility tool that we have that exists is Dictate. So like I said before at the beginning, I had a student who broke his shoulder and had to have surgery, couldn't use his hand for about 6 weeks, 8 weeks. We showed him how to use Dictate. Dictate is going to be in the home menu. So you'll go to the home menu of any of the apps. You'll look at the microphone. You can set your dictation language, so you can set the language that you're speaking. You can also have it translate. So this might be a really great thing to show parents who are trying to, maybe they want to start emails and they want to be able to dictate in their own language, but have it come through in English. So they can use the dictate feature and they can speak in their own language and create the email in English. So it creates 29 spoken languages, but it will also translate into 60 languages. So this is what it looks like, where you can find from what language to what language right there. And all they have to do is once they click record, it will just pick up everything that they're saying. And this is just a picture for you. And then we're almost at time. I do want to show you that Math Assistant is another great feature for our struggling math students. Teachers do have the ability to turn this off or on. So it's not like it always has to be open for them. But under the draw menu in OneNote, your students just have to type or write or ink a formula or a problem, a math problem. And then they'll go into the draw menu and they'll click on the math button here. They'll circle what they want the math function to solve for them. They can do a couple of things. They can just see the answer. They can solve for whatever. It'll give them options here. And they can see each of the steps that was taken to get to that answer. This is a great thing for if you're wanting your students to check their math homework before they turn it in, make sure they fully understand it. It's a great feature for them. You'll see Immersive Reader right here. So if they need to have that read to them, they can. The other thing that Math Assistant allows is for them to create a practice quiz. So if they're really struggling with that homework assignment and they want to see what's happening, or they want more practice than what they've gotten, especially for a specific concept, they can generate a 3-question practice quiz. However, on the flip side, this is also available to teachers. So if teachers are seeing that certain students need help with things, they too can go into Math Assistant. They can create a problem and they can also create a practice quiz and assign it just to certain students who need that extra help. The next feature that we have is Presenter Coach. If your students are super anxious about giving presentations in person, Presenter Coach is in PowerPoint on the web or on the desktop, and students can actually practice and rehearse their presentation before they give it live, and it will give them a really nice feedback for how they can improve. The last, I have 2 more things to show you, then I'll be finished. Microsoft Lens is an app on your phone. This is another way if you want your students to be able to use Immersive Reader on something that's on paper. Immersive Reader is in Microsoft Lens. Your students can use the app on a device and they can take a picture of whatever that paper is and they can open it in Immersive Reader. So they can have that digital experience on things that are paper. And then finally, I'm going to actually skip that, go to Sway. Sway is another way that you can give presentations, and there's an accessibility view built in to Sway. All right, I'm going to actually, if you want to, you can come and get this Wakelet link right here. But if you did, I'm going to go back to the beginning and show you that QR code. So if you want to get that QR code, it's going to give you a link to this presentation and you'll have all the links in there. So I'm just going to go here, show you this really quickly if you want to grab that, and then I'm finished.
Thank you so much, Mary.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions for her before we wrap anything up? Good to go? Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Sure appreciate
Yeah.
it.
You're welcome. I'm going to go ahead and stop presenting, save that recording, and I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
If anybody wanted to get scanned too, I don't know if you guys are doing that.